Forever. Dog.
Just between us. Hey. Just between us. Hey.
Hello, I'm Allison Raskin. I'm a writer, mental health advocate, and gossip. I love to gossip. Gabby was just giving me some good gossip, and now we had to stop so we could do the show.
Hi, I'm Gabby Dunn. I'm a writer, bicon, bisexual icon, wink, and yeah, there was a lot of hot goss coming your way.
I love the tea, and I was getting it, and then Melisa was like, we're running out of time. Do your job.
Well, because I'm like dating a bunch of people, but Allison didn't know about some of them. And so then there was one that was like real, I thought Allison would care to know about. And I was like, now I can share it because I think it's over.
Why couldn't I know when it was happening?
I guess you could have. It's a really sad time for me if everyone could just put your hands together and pray.
It's funny to think that I used to react to things. Like when we first met, you would tell me stuff and I would be like, oh my God. And now I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I like nothing. I can't. I think at this point it would have to be like murder for me to be like, whoa.
Yeah. I just want to say that this once again proves that just because someone has abs does not make them a good person. And I think we all need to keep that in mind. But also, I guess there's a slot available on the roster. So if you're hot and, available, hit me up. There's an opening on what we call the what is it called? The starting lineup. There's an opening on the starting lineup.
And this might be my radicalness that's happening. I hate that you say if you're hot.
I know, but this is what I mean.
It really rubs me the wrong way.
Okay, but this is what I mean. I don't mean hot like, because there are people that are like conventionally attractive that are so vile to me. I'm talking about if you are hot in a way that I, Gabby Dunn, specifically find
but people
hot.
don't know that. So then all people are hearing is you perpetuating this idea that like only attractive people are desired.
Attraction is incredibly subjective.
So then say, if you are hot to me on my personal preference, which is different for everybody.
Exactly.
That's how you should always say it.
And I'll do you one better. I don't care what you look like. If you are confident.
There we go.
If you have, I don't always reply to the DMs that y'all send me that are simping, but I appreciate them. I enjoy that you've shot your shot.
I find it hard to believe you don't reply.
I really haven't. I felt bad. I haven't. And so, yes, mostly what I mean when I say hot is confidence. All I really am attracted to in the through line of people that I've been attracted to, none of them look alike or have similar body types or anything. They just are confident.
Yeah. But confidence is also tricky.
It's hard. It's hard to have confidence.
Now that I have all of these newfound beliefs about the world, I have so much left to say. I can't really speak about any, you know what I mean? I realize like I listen to all these podcasts where people are just like bashing people and like giving their opinions about stuff. And now I'm just like, everyone has a different context. Like
because you're like a very zen, like mental health professional. And I'm a himbo slut. So we've really reached welcome to the show. I'm just kidding. There's no roster. That would imply that there's a limit. Can I talk about something? Okay, wait.
Melisa just got that.
Okay, wait. So this is Just Between Us, a variety show filled with heartfelt advice,
ridiculous games,
and brutal honesty. Can I say one thing about a DM I got that I didn't like?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So I got a DM from someone, and I'm sure this person meant well.
Mm-hmm.
They said some flattering things in the DM.
What kind of things?
Just like about loving the show and about like all this stuff. And I'm not meaning to call this person out in particular, but I had mentioned feeling a bit disheartened that whenever I post about something trans, I lose followers. So I started, when I first came out as trans, I started with 300,000 on Instagram. I'll give you the numbers. And then over the time that and I can see it happening because I have the statistics, every time I post about being trans, I lose followers. I'm now at like 297. And that dropped right after I posted another thing about being trans. I can't prove that it's connected, but it seems connected.
My
So-
Instagram's going down every day and I don't even have an excuse.
Okay, but mine I can see is tied to some of that stuff. So I had spoken on the show saying I'm worried about alienating the people that used to be fans of mine, right? Let's say you were a big fan of me. I helped you realize that you were a bisexual cis woman. You come and find me now, and you're like, "What is this transmasculine goblin that I see before me?" And this person was trying to make me feel better, I think, but ended up saying, of course, like a lot of times, like queer cis women or lesbian cis women feel a little bit of a loss whenever someone they look up to comes out as trans because the community is so small and of queer women and lesbians is so small that, it's not about that person. It's just about feeling like the loss of the representation. That is a turf talking point. I don't know if anybody who has sent that to me, and multiple people have said that sentiment to me, if you realize that, but the idea that the lesbian community is shrinking because of trans masks is not true. And in fact, there are more trans lesbians than ever. And how come you don't count those in your ranks of gaining more queer women? No, because you just are thinking about women as cis women, which we can't even get into that. But there is this very toxic idea that because of trans masculinity, there are no butches anymore. And all the lesbians are turning into men and whatever. And my friend Stephanie Frosch put it this way. She said, that's like being disappointed that your Pokemon evolved. Maybe, and someone else, one of my friends was like, this should have been in the group text and not sent to you directly. But like saying that someone transitioning is a loss for you or a loss for your community is fucked up. I sent it to some friends and I was like, it's fine. It's not like this is my literal biggest fear regarding my career and my fan base. And then there's been like a few DMs from people being like, yeah, I know you've said that's your biggest fear. And like, it is true. But, and people keep saying like, just wait, it's going to be refilled. Like the trans fans will support you. And like, you're going to lose these people, but you'll gain other people. So I don't know. But this like idea of entitlement to you being like a representative of this specific group. And then when you're not that they are grieving you in some way is just keeps me up at night.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, but it's anything that has to do with like being one way and then changing that way. And then people are like, no, but we liked you. I don't know. I'm sure like this is a very common thing for like, I'm sure Elliot Page feels this way too. Like, I'm sure like there's people that were like, no, you were our lesbian representation or whatever. But you know what? There's new ones out there. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I just felt weird and it was my biggest fear. And then this person sent this to me and they're not the first person to have done it. So don't think that this is just about you, but there have definitely been other people who have sent me similar feelings. Please don't. But do hit on me. And that's it. That's DM Corner. That's just the part of the show where we talk about what's going on in the DMs.
It's so funny, right? When somebody shares something like that and like wanting to give back something to you of like, oh, well, what about this? Or what about, but like, I don't want to do that. I just want to like honor that feeling and be like, that sucks. And I'm sorry.
It's weird for someone to say that they are grieving you when you are right there.
Yeah.
I didn't go anywhere.
Right.
I'm right here, guys. Still making stuff. Whether you want me to or not. And a lot of you don't. And I'm here to tell you people.
Okay, this is Just Between Us, a variety show filled with heartfelt advice,
ridiculous games,
and brutal honesty.
I'm so excited because this week we're going to be talking to Susan Cain all about grief and longing and her book, Bittersweet.
And later we will be discussing how do you learn to like yourself?
Fitting.
But first, we have got to answer a listener's question. And you know what that means? Hit it! International question! International question! International question! Anonymous! Dublin.
Top of the morning to you.
How did this song exist? Why do I sing this?
Why do you sing International Question?
Yeah, when did this start?
Well, I remember back in the day when we first started on YouTube, you would get very excited when we would get a question from an international place because you felt that our reach was such that we were global.
And so I just sang it one day?
Yeah. And you were very excited. And now, even if the question is domestic, you do still sing International Question. But the last 2 episodes did have actual international. So thank you, Dublin.
Okay. So Anonymous writes, "Hi, Gabby and Allison. I discovered your podcast during the pandemic, and you've been a great sense of comfort to me. And I've learned so much by listening to you over the past few years. My question is, how do I stop getting so sad every time I have to say goodbye to my long-distance boyfriend? At the moment, I'm able to visit home for a few days, about once a month. But on our last night together, every time I get incredibly sad and worried that I won't see him again and cry hysterically. He's so sweet about it and does his best to comfort me and tries to cheer me up and make me laugh, but I feel awful that I put him through that every time I see him. He makes me feel very secure in our long-distance relationship, and I'm generally very happy just talking to him every day and looking forward to the next time we can see each other. I'm also always okay with the feeling of being long-distance the next day once I'm at home, and it's really just the anticipation of having to say goodbye that kills me. When we first started dating, we lived much closer to each other for a few months, and I didn't have this reaction then. So I think I'll be fine when we live closer to each other again, but that's still about a year away. Is there anything I can do to keep enjoying our relationship when we get to see each other without getting hung up on the fact that it's temporary? Thanks so much."
Woo! Let's talk attachment styles. Okay.
Oh, do you have a Dr. Dunn?
Dr. Dunn was my grandfather. He was actually a very well-respected anesthesiologist in his community. Okay, so this is an insecure attachment style, and this is not your fault. This is something that you have past situations where you were told that you would see someone again and you didn't see them again. Maybe you had situations where other people in your life were not as permanent as you wanted them to be. I think there's also like a huge come down, right? So when you're long distance, you see someone and you get so high on seeing them and you're so excited and it's almost like doing Molly. And then the next day is like your Blue Monday, where like you're coming down off of this great big manic high of being with the person that you love. So I think like in this scenario, your emotions are all over the place and you're getting like a lot of dopamine and then your dopamine is crashing. And so it's sort of like, how do you get to a place of secure attachment? And it's not something your boyfriend can give you. He's the one who's like comforting you and obviously being really lovely. It's something that you have to learn and give yourself. It's like a self-soothing sort of technique that you're going to have to like learn and give yourself because attachment styles can change. Like you're not stuck with this one.
I will also say, and I'm not jumping to that this is an attachment issue necessarily, but I will say one way that you do learn to have a secure attachment is actually in relationship with another person. So it isn't something you actually do all on your own. A lot of times
he can't
it will
give that to you.
Right, but a lot of times just through the process of having a healthy relationship with someone who does show up for you in a stable, consistent way, that can help you change your attachment style.
But then if he's doing that, how can she start to believe him?
Right. I was just making a point that
No, I hear you.
That like, yes, there's a lot of work you have to do on your own, but also a lot of times the attachment can change through a relationship. So like even like you can change your attachment style even through having a good relationship with your therapist, right? Because like through the relationship of having a secure attachment to your therapist, you can learn how to have a secure attachment style.
So, but what can she do?
Yeah, I think that my first step is to remove the judgment of the feelings, right? So like feeling really shitty about yourself that you do this every time. That's just making you feel worse. And like objectively, it is a sad thing to leave your boyfriend, right? Like I think that like maybe we're forgetting that like, yes, this reaction seems big and is probably a lot in the moment, but also it makes sense that you're sad to leave your boyfriend.
Of course.
Right. And so just like allowing yourself that, validating that. I think that the thing that is really harmful is this idea that I'll never see him again versus I'm just sad that we're going to be apart for a while.
Right.
And so like you said, that can maybe be, tapping into some abandonment issues or wounds there that like it could be something that you could, if you have access to therapy, potentially work out in therapy.
Or even try to remember like when has this ever happened in your life?
Mm-hmm.
If it has, what did that mean to you? How did that affect you? Is that something that you've just brushed over? To me, it's a lot of remembering that this person isn't this person, that your boyfriend isn't that same person, and that he's not abandoning you, that that's not what's happening in reality. Because believe me, if your brain wants to lie to you.
I also think, and this might sound strange, but like, obviously working through your attachment style, working through past trauma, that's all long-term work. That's important. Definitely should be a priority. But I also wonder what it would look like to, in a short-term solution, add some humor into what's happening.
Yeah.
Like for me, I do a lot of weird stuff. Like I got some problems, like I have, OCD, and my OCD makes me do things that are weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that I handle it, and like, it's different, but like the way that I handle it is I poke fun at myself and I laugh about it. And I'm able to recognize the moment. Like I'll like announce like a few weeks ago, I was feeling like really burnt out, and I was feeling like, oh no, like things aren't really going that well in my brain. And so I was able to like say to John, I was like, I'm on the cusp of a breakdown. So, like I was like, yeah, like this is not going to go well for you. Like, I don't know, man. Like I'm just letting you know when I have my breakdown, you can say, hey, she told me it was coming, like.
Yeah. Or play out like the funny, like I feel like you could be like, okay, you're going off to, sail on a ship in 1900 and we shall never see each other. Like, you know what I mean? Like, try to like make it silly.
Like, and that's not going to take away the sadness, but it does change the atmosphere. Yeah. And so I think like even just being able to be like, well, here I go, I'm crying again, like being able to find the humor in the situation, because I think you can see that there is some humor there. Like there is some like absurdity. Like whenever we like lose control of ourselves, there is an element of like, well, this is wild.
Right.
Like, and so being like tapped into that instead of feeling like it has to be a night where you take things so seriously and that only sadness can prevail, and then tomorrow, let me like apologize for it to
right.
Just like being able to like have it almost be like a joke in your relationship that like every time you say goodbye you fully cry, like, or you have a meltdown. Like that can be like an ongoing bit. Like so much of my mental health has just now become a bit that like I think it not only makes it easier for John to handle, but just makes it easier for me to handle, because like I can see the absurdity in it. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm like not gonna, Clorox wipe the back of my couch because suitcases touched it 2 days earlier. Like I'm gonna get to that, but like being able to be like, for me, humor has always helped me in processing these big emotions and these things where it has helped me the most in times where I have felt out of control of myself. Yeah. Maybe finding the funny in it might help.
I think that's correct. Yeah. I don't think it has to be so heavy, especially because most likely you will see each other again.
You can cry while laughing. Yes. I know that seems like a wild thing to say, but you can do both those things.
Yeah. When Mal and I first started dating, we got into like a conversation because, you're getting to know each other. And I was like, oh yeah, I like to get to the airport like right as we're boarding. Like I like to just get there. Like I want to just walk onto the plane. And Mal was like, no, you need to get there like 3 hours early. And I was like, why? To sit there for 2 hours? And Mal was like, what? And it was so horrifying to them that I remember in the moment they were so upset, but in this weird way that they just went, no, baby, please compromise, please. And it was such a funny, weird little way to put that. And so then I had it embroidered on a pillow. And like, that's funny. And now we have that like pillow that just says, no, baby, please compromise, please. And we have that for any time, Like, and so I think there is like, it diffuses things.
It diffuses things. And even just like making jokes like, can't wait to see you, can't wait to break down.
Yes,
You know, like just taking the power away from the moment, I think might
making
help.
a special tissue box for
Yeah,
the
for
night
when you have
before-
your
that just
Dubai
is labeled
breakdown.
the night before.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, that's our advice. Laugh about it. Hopefully that helps. If you want to submit an international question, you can send it to justbetweenuspod@gmail.com. That's justbetweenuspod@gmail.com.
Up next, we've got an exciting interview with our highly esteemed guest, Susan Cain. Stay tuned.
Paying down debt can be stressful, especially when you need to keep track of multiple monthly payment dates. If you're tired of juggling due dates, consolidating with a personal loan could be your answer. That way, you'll have just one due date a month, and Credit Karma can help you find the best option for you.
Credit Karma uses your credit data to find loan offers that are personalized to you, so you can have a better idea of what loan amount you can get approved for.
Credit Karma will even show you your chances of approval, so you can choose between loan offers that you're more likely to get approved for and apply with more confidence.
Comparing loan offers on Credit Karma is 100% free, won't affect your credit scores, and could save you money.
Credit Karma. Apply with more confidence today.
Ready to apply? Head to creditkarma.com/loan offers to see personalized offers.
Go to creditkarma.com/loan offers to find the loan for you.
That's creditkarma.com/loan offers.
Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp.
How well would you take care of your car if you had to keep the same one your entire life? Well, that's how our brains work, so why don't we treat them that way?
There's plenty of ways to support a healthy brain, like learning a new language or taking power naps. But there's also BetterHelp online therapy.
I love therapy. I've been in therapy for 8 years with the same therapist. I just started couples therapy, actually, and literally being able to discuss these things out loud with someone who is like a third party, it has been so good for my communication with my partner. And my individual therapist has probably saved my life multiple times.
It's so important to prioritize your mental health, and one of the ways to do that is to connect with a therapist who really understands you.
BetterHelp is also online therapy, so it offers phone, video, and even live chat options for online therapy. So if you don't want to see someone on camera, you really don't have to.
And it's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you'll be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours.
And it takes a long time to find a therapist usually, so that's really cool. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/justbetweenus.
That's betterhelp.com/justbetweenus.
Just between us.
Welcome back to Just Between Us. It's time for the juiciest, most scandalous, controversial segment known to all of podcasting. Tough questions.
This week on the show, we have Susan Cain, the author of Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, which spent 7 years on the New York Times bestseller list and has been translated into 40 languages. Her new book is Bittersweet, How Sorrow and Longing Makes Us Whole, and it became an instant #1 New York Times bestseller. Hello.
Hello. It is so fun to be here with you.
So these topics are so interesting and also so different. So how did you kind of pick the topic for Bittersweet? What made you want to talk about like grief and longing?
Yeah, you know what made me really want to talk about it is that I had had this experience my whole life of listening to, sad, I'm saying that with scare quotes, sad music, and experience something that was really quite different from sadness itself, but rather experiencing a kind of whoosh of love and sense of community because the music expresses the pain that all human beings go through at one time or another. Yeah, and a sense of a kind of transcendence, of like transcending one's own experience and being connected to something bigger. And at first I was just curious about the music itself, but I quickly realized that it wasn't really only about music, and rather the music is tapping into this bigger thing that I call bittersweetness, which is the awareness, the deep awareness that joy and sorrow in this world always go together. And that when you're tapped into that reality, there's a kind of a sense of being tapped into the beauty of the world and the joy of the world, and like to create creativity and connection and transcendence. And it's like this just sort of deep power source, I would say, that our culture does not tell us about, because our culture is telling us, be super cheerful and optimistic all the time, and cheer and optimism are amazing. Nothing wrong with those, but just that there's this other deep vein of human experience that is so incredibly powerful that I wanted to shine a light on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a real fear of negative emotions because they feel bad and they feel icky. But there's also a sense that if you don't feel negative emotions, then it's a lot harder and sometimes impossible to feel positive emotions fully too. Is that something you found along your journey of writing this book?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't like feeling negative emotions any more than any other human does. It's just that what happens if you don't make space for them is you end up taking them out somehow on yourself, in the form of like addiction or depression or whatever it is for you. Or you might take them out on somebody else in the form of abuse or resentment or passive aggressiveness. And then there's this other way of being where you do make space for them. And what ends up happening is they hurt, but there's also a way in which we kind of like transform them into something else. And there's this deep tradition that goes all the way back to ancient mythology. There's an archetype of the so-called wounded healer, which is basically like these figures all through history who were wounded in a particular way. And then it's like the source of their healing the source of their healing powers came directly from that wound. And in the book, I take readers through many, many examples of people like this. But, it's everything from, the parent whose child is killed on a highway by a drunken driver, and then she starts Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Or like after 9/11, suddenly in the US, lots of people signing up to become firefighters. And with the pandemic, lots of people signing up for medical school and nursing school. And like, why do we do that? All these examples in a way are like rushing closer to the scene of the wound. But I think what they're really doing is tapping into this human desire to make meaning out of pain. And it's one of our best qualities that we need to tap into.
Yeah, I feel a little conflicted about this because something I think and talk about a lot is like, you don't need to make meaning from your pain. Do you know, that sometimes I think there's this feeling of like, oh, your trauma makes you stronger. And then this is like, and like always looking for this silver lining in things that I think can be really detrimental. And also it puts pressure on people to respond to bad things in a certain way. And also sort of implies that like you can't be a full person without experiencing trauma. And I think that you can. I think that like a lot of us, unfortunately, don't get to have that opportunity because we have traumatic experiences. But this idea that like we must find meaning in the bad doesn't always sit great with me.
No, I totally understand that. And I actually really appreciate that you're like coming out and saying that, because I think that's a really important thing to talk about. And I do want to be careful. Like those examples that I just gave are kind of like, I don't know, they're sort of, big and archetypal examples. But the point is not like everybody's got to go out and like found an organization or, paint a beautiful painting or something like that. It's not that so much. It's more that those are like big examples of smaller little moments that we all pass through when pain comes. And God knows, like, I think it's great if a person gets through a life without trauma, as you were saying. I don't think, though, that we can get through a life without pain or without experiencing sorrow. And even if we are like miraculously managed to do it ourselves, we're living in a world in which all around us, there's all kinds of tragedies and evils that we all have to contend with. So this bittersweet tradition that I've been like researching for this last 5, 6, 7 years talks about is like the way in which that we're taught that when everything is going well, that's life. That's like the default version of life. And when things aren't going well, that's like the path off the road. And now you're like in the wilderness, as opposed to expecting all of these things to come because they're all part of life. And it makes it easier when they come. If you see life that way, it all just makes much more sense, and you're spending a lot less time. You're still having the pain itself, but you're spending less time like resisting it, and saying, oh, it wasn't supposed to be this way, as opposed to saying, oh, this is kind of what life entails. It entails all of this. I think for all of us, if we could wave a magic wand and say, it's only going to be joy and it's only going to be beauty, we'd probably wave that wand. I would. But I'm more trying to respond to the world in which we live and how to make sense of that.
Yeah, like what do you want your readers to take away from the book? Like, is it a sort of a change in perspective?
I guess I'd say, yeah, it's a bunch of things. I mean, for one thing, I would say there is a way of being in the world that I call bittersweetness. And it's a way of being that is acutely aware of the way in which joy and sorrow are forever paired in this world. And what we found through the research, we have in the book a bittersweet quiz. I say we because I developed it with these psychologists, David Yaden at Johns Hopkins and Scott Barry Kaufman. And what we found is that people who are very attuned to the way in which joy and sorrow go together also tend to be attuned to states of awe and wonder and spirituality and creativity. It's like all these things, it's a constellation of things that come together. Like you were saying at the beginning, my first book, Quiet, and this one seems so different. And at first I thought that too. But what I realized is that this bittersweet way of being in the world is a kind of hidden superpower that our culture doesn't teach us about. Just the way that being quiet in a world that prizes extroversion and dominance is also a kind of hidden superpower. So that's one of the things I want people to take away is that I think there's a fear that if you're too much attuned to the sorrows at hand, that you might like disappear into a kind of quicksand of grief and never come out again. And I'm saying that there's a middle way. There's a middle way in which you can experience joy and sorrow together, and that this middle way is a kind of superpower that gives you access to certain states of creativity and connection.
When you were talking about songs, and it is interesting, right, that so many songs are about longing. That like every song is about love and longing and loss. And there's this word for, I think, a state of being where I can't remember what the word is, where you suddenly realize that everyone in the world is Sonder, where you suddenly realize that everyone in the world has the same complex capacity that you do, and their life is as complex as yours, and they are feeling similar things to what you feel.
Yeah.
And sometimes people experience that as very like, wow, human connection.
Yeah.
And sometimes people experience that as, this is overwhelming. Was that what's going on for you?
Yeah, it was very much like that. Though I guess I would say I've experienced that exact thing that you're describing in an overwhelmingly positive way. Something about the way in which humans are united in this state of being. And
is that something more people need to like understand to make the world a more connected place?
yeah, absolutely. I do think that. And I mean, there's all these interesting studies about sad music, like people whose favorite songs are happy, listen to them about 175 times on average on their playlists. And the people who love sad music will listen to those songs 800 times. And then they'll tell researchers that they feel when they listen to them, like that they feel connected to the sublime and, to these higher states of being. And I kind of traced that. And what it really is, I believe, is that all humans enter this world with this fundamental state of feeling like a kind of longing for a more perfect world that they feel they belong to, that's out there somewhere, from which they've been temporarily banished. And you see this expressed in all our religions, right? It's like there's the longing for the Garden of Eden and the longing for Mecca and the longing for Zion. Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz is longing for somewhere over the rainbow. All the children's literature, the protagonists are always orphans who are in this state of longing. And there's a kind of understanding in all these different narratives that it's the longing itself that then propels us on our adventures, or the adventures of these children's books heroes or whatever it is. So yes, I think that if we were more aware of this and could tap into it, it's a kind of deep force for all of us, or a deep power source, I should say.
Not even moving like forward in our adventures, but just feeling not alone. Just feeling like I'm going through this and somebody made a whole album about this.
Yeah.
And so I'm not alone. I'm not by myself. I'm not, every time you go through a breakup, you kind of go, I'm the only person to have ever experienced this terrible thing. And it's been really helpful as I've gotten older to be like, I'm not. This is actually a thing that has happened to many people.
Totally. Absolutely. There's something really profound about that. And like, I would say then also the fact that when you're listening to the song, it's like, the artist or the musician is telling you they've felt that way, and everybody, and that everybody else who's listened to it has felt that way, or they wouldn't be resonating so much with it. And then the musician has taken this extra step of turning it into something beautiful. So it's like all of that, I think, translates into this deeply collective experience that you can experience all by yourself.
I'd also love to talk about the grief component of the book, because I think there's this sense that grief is something you get over, but I don't think that that's true. And, having talked to people who've lost significant people in their life, it's really just your relationship to the grief maybe changes, but it's always with you.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you had some takeaways around grief from your research.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that I investigated a lot in the book is the Buddhist concept of impermanence and non-attachment, and whether it really is truly ever possible to experience true, like a true letting go or a true non-attachment after a grief. And I don't know. I mean, I know that theoretically that should be possible, but what I kept coming back to is like, there's this poem that was written by one of the great Japanese Buddhist poets, like 200 years ago. And it was a man who had lost his daughter to smallpox at the age of 2 or 3. And he writes this poem where he goes something like, I know that this world of dew is a world of dew, like dew, DEW. So he's basically saying, I get it that this world is impermanent and that I should expect that my daughter is mortal. And then he says, but even so. And I just love that. I felt it was it's such a generous poem, because he's basically saying, I'm trained as a Buddhist. I understand all these things, and I'm still going to protest. I'm not going to be okay with this grief. I'm never going to be, and probably neither are you. And that feeling you were just talking about, or the sonder of like everybody together experiencing the same thing. I think that's a deep reality, and that one of the most consoling things in the face of any grief is that we all experience it in that same way. And then I guess I'd say the second big thing that I found really helpful was I talk in the book about the work of the writer Nora McInerney.
Yes, we love her.
Yeah, she's
one of my good friends. She's brilliant.
She's totally amazing. So, I mean, her story and her idea. Do you feel all your listeners would know it, or should I say it? Or?
No, please share. Yeah.
Yeah, but we've done an episode with her, but yes.
Okay.
Please share.
So just quick recap, so Nora had lost her beloved husband, when they were still quite young. And that was a terrible grief. And then later she remarried, but she talks about the difference between moving on and moving forward, and how culture kind of sends us the message that you're supposed to move on, which is a fancy way of saying get over it, really. And she says, no, instead you can move forward, which is to say that the grief never leaves you, and your love and your longing for that person never leaves you. And at the same time, you can move forward while carrying all of that with you, and while carrying the person with you. So you're not leaving them behind, you're taking them with you, because you are the person. Like she talks about how the person she is in this second marriage is different from whom she would have been without her lost husband.
Right.
And yeah, I think that framework is so liberating in a certain way.
Definitely.
People have a hard time. They want you to move on. They want to think you put you in a box and say, you're done, you're clean, it's finished. She gets a lot of comments where people will say, I mean, one of the most ones that she gets a lot that I like, she responds to is like, well, in heaven, who will be your husband? Because, you can't still love Aaron if you're married again, because who was your soulmate? Like, who will be your partner when you die? And she often, her response that she does is she's like, why would I be married to either of them? I will be married to John Cena. But, which is so funny. But yeah, there's this idea of like, you shouldn't be, if you really loved them, you can never get over them.
Yeah. And maybe you can and maybe you can't. But I think with the framework of moving forward, you don't have to exactly. It's a way that you can move forward and still feel the grief for the rest of your life, maybe. I don't know. There's also the thing of like, I think resisting the one size fits all answer to how we're supposed to deal with these kinds of things. Because like the Columbia researcher, George Bonanno, has actually found that the majority of people are much more resilient in the face of grief than they think they're going to be, which I guess in some ways is not that surprising because we have evolved as beings who have always been bereaved, like it's part of the human experience. But on the other hand, there's some quite sizable minority of us who do experience a kind of chronic grief that doesn't go away. And so, I don't know, I'm like very leery of any system that says it should be this way or it should be that way, as opposed to saying this is how it is for you, because of all the complicated soup of factors that make you and made that relationship.
And if you're someone who does their best to avoid negative emotions, does their best to kind of shut down when it comes to sorrow or grief or longing, and they're hearing this and they're thinking, okay, maybe I'm missing out on a part of the human experience. And like we said before, often when you do that, that means you're not fully experiencing joy either. How do you start to tap into these emotions in a way that won't be so overwhelming?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a kind of paradoxical place to start for that person. And that place is just to start by tuning into beauty in a more proactive way than most of us probably do. Like literally starting your morning by tuning into something that you find very beautiful, whether it's art or music or nature or whatever it is. Because what beauty really does in us is it unlocks our capacity to feel in a deep way. And there's actually this amazing study I came across that found that like in our culture, we really privilege the creation of art over the consumption of art. But
Yes.
we really do. But like the consumption of art is just as profound and meaningful. It unlocks the same brain functions as we feel when we fall in love. That's what it's doing for us. So this state of bittersweetness, I mean, it really comes about by being open to emotions as they come to us. And so beauty is like a very non-threatening and actually very positive way of teaching us to do that. So I'd say that's step one. And then step two might be to find the aspects of art and beauty that you do find to be that have a kind of melancholy cast to them, but that don't make you run screaming away. That might be step two.
What's the name of that thing where when you see something really beautiful, you cry? It's like a condition.
Oh.
Being a wuss.
No,
I'm just kidding.
My producer's going to look it up. It's like a real thing that people have where they have like a condition where like extreme beauty makes them cry.
No, it's so funny that you say that because I never heard of a word for that state, but I literally have. I have two epigraphs to my book, and one of them is all about that. It's so funny that you asked that. It's an epigraph by this professor of the psychology of religion, and he's talking about something that Gregory the Great said, like in the year 500. He called it compunctio. I doubt that's the word you're looking for. He called that the grief somebody feels when faced with that which is most beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea there is that kind of what we were talking about before. It's because when you see something that's that beautiful, it's like, it's a reminder of that perfect world to which we all want to return and want to belong to. It's like a reminder that we're not there right now, but that it exists out there somewhere. It's like a glimpse of the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're feeling it for that moment. So it's like, it's happy, sad tears because you're happy to see it and you're sad about how fleeting it is.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break, but stick around. Want a toothbrush you can feel good about? Quip inspires and coaches good oral care habits in every mouth while supporting causes you care about during Pride Month. How? For every new limited edition Smile with Pride electric toothbrush purchased, Quip is donating to the Ali Forney Center to help LGBTQ plus youths.
Celebrate your twice daily routine with this new limited edition electric brush that has all the colors of the rainbow in a matte metal handle that lets you brush loud and proud while helping homeless youths in the LGBTQ community.
On top of healthy oral care habits, you can help support homeless LGBTQ plus youths.
Quip is donating $5 to the Ali Forney Center with every limited edition Pride electric toothbrush purchased.
You can make your routine a full spectrum clean with 2 ways to floss. Floss string that expands to clean, reusable floss pick that replaces over 180 disposable picks with every refill.
And refillable gum that's sugar-free, has long-lasting mint flavor, and comes with a dispenser.
With electric brushes, you'll be proud to show off starting at just $25. You won't be paying through the teeth for better oral health.
And you can keep what you love coming every 3 months automatically with refills of brush heads, toothpaste, and more from $5 shipped free.
If you go to getquip.com/justbetweenus right now, you'll get your first refill free.
That's your first refill free at getquip.com/justbetweenus.
Spelled GETQUIP.com/justbetweenus.
Quip, the good habits company.
Most of you have probably heard us sing the praises of Prose, the world's most personalized hair care. And for those that haven't, let us tell you about the incredible results you'll see using customized Prose products.
My hair is pretty short, but I dye it all the time, and Prose has really improved the texture of my hair. It smells so good. It makes my hair smooth. It makes it easier to style it. It's just like, I recommended it to my mom yesterday.
Prose knows there is more to you than just your hair type. Prose has given over 1 million consultations with their in-depth hair quiz, which is how we got started.
I move around a lot, and because I have 2 places that I live, and I have been able to, on the quiz, answer questions about my zip code, answer questions about like the damage level of my hair, depending on how often I've dyed it. The questions are super interesting because they're taking into account so many aspects to give you the best hair care.
As a carbon neutral certified B Corp, Prose is an industry leader in clean and responsible beauty. All their ingredients are sustainably sourced, ethically gathered, and cruelty-free. They're also the first custom beauty brand to go carbon neutral.
If you're not 100% positive Prose is the best hair care you've had, they will take the products back, no questions asked.
Prose is the healthy hair regimen with your name all over it. Take your free in-depth hair consultation and get 15% off your first order today.
Go to prose.com/justbetweenus. That's PROSE.com/justbetweenus for your free in-depth hair consultation and 15% off.
Just between us.
And we're back.
Has writing this book changed you in any profound ways?
Yeah, it really has. I guess I'd say in 2 big ways. One is I tell the story in the book. It's a whole complicated story, but a sort of painful relationship that I had with my mom, a very painful and complicated relationship that I had not been able to talk about without tears coming. For decades, I couldn't talk about it. And I was actually really worried about writing about it and then going out on a book tour and having people ask me about it. And despite everything I'm saying about that we should be more comfortable with these emotions, I didn't want to be in a situation where I might be like on national radio and starting to weep. I didn't want that to happen.
Sure. You're like, God, I'm a stereotype promoting the grief book, crying.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was like this relationship was so deeply unresolved for me. But then over the course of writing the book and really like immersing myself in everything that we've just been talking about, I really did truly reach a state of equilibrium and a state of understanding and like a deep emotional resolution.
Wow.
And I would say, to anyone who has whatever your complicated relationship is or your losses, it doesn't require writing a whole book.
You can if you want.
You can if you want. You can if you want. But it's much more about tuning into this state of being and how universal it is and how normal it is. And, as I said, like stopping the resistance to it and just inhabiting it.
So it's actually Melisa, our producer, texted me, and it's called Stendhal syndrome. It used to be a psychosomatic disorder, but now they figured out that it is a term for crying in reaction to beauty. The thing that brings you to tears is called Stendhalish. And it's when you cry when you're confronted with immense beauty in the natural world.
I cannot even believe it because, I have been researching this for like 7 years and never came across that. That's so fascinating to know. So now I feel like I have to
weird.
Look up this syndrome. You're awesome.
I know a lot of trivia.
A lot of interesting things is what you know.
Thank you so much. I've been trying to get people on this show to realize that about me.
No, you don't know what you've done.
I've unleashed.
So what was the second big change?
Oh gosh. The second big change is that I started out this book. I mean, all my life I've been a really deep agnostic, and I'm still just as agnostic as I was when I started. But my whole relationship to questions of spirituality has just like completely changed and opened up. And the best way I can think of to describe it is this parable that I came across that describes a Hasidic rabbi in the 19th century who had a man in his congregation who was obviously extremely uninterested in his talk of God and was not paying any attention. And then the rabbi sings for the man or hums for him a melody of longing and of yearning. And the man listens and he says, "Oh, like now I understand what it is you were trying to say for all these years, because I feel this intense longing to be united with the Lord." Like that's the way this man puts it. And I feel like I'm a lot like that man. So I'm still just as agnostic kind of intellectually as I ever was. But what I found is that all these religions, and especially the mystical side of most religions, that they kind of teach that the more you tune into that state of longing, the closer you come to attaining belonging, to, the closer you come to attaining union with the divinity. And I think you can also see that as a metaphor. You could call it the divine, but you could also call it, love or truth or beauty or everything that's most good. And so I've really gotten into that state of being and that sense of that kind of longing as just an inherently transformative state in and of itself.
Hard to reach. I think sometimes they make that purposefully hard to reach. Like a lot of religion is about longing. A lot of religion is in Judaism, next year in Jerusalem.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, we hope to reach the afterlife. We hope to reach, it's kind of this thing that gets misunderstood and distorted and made ugly in like organized religion. That is actually, if you like go back to the text, is just about like trying to find peace amongst yourself and your community.
Yeah.
And it is about longing for something better. But that does not mean ignoring the real needs and community and love and beauty around yourselves, and I think that that's something that gets so distorted when you translate that into direct longing for a thing, for entry to heaven, for, this like perfection where you've never sinned or things like that. When the real longing is the community around you, Sonder, if you will.
Well, I mean, one metaphor that I came across that I felt like really helped kind of bridge the gap between this sort of state of pure longing and what you're talking about. It comes from the Kabbalah, and it's the idea that all of creation was originally a kind of intact vessel that then broke. And the world that we're living in now is the world after the breakage. But that scattered all around us still are the shards of this divine vessel. And each of us can spot, different different shards lying in the mud around us, and you're going to notice different ones from the ones that I'm going to notice. And one of the things that we can do in this world is bend down and pick them up. And I really love that. I feel like it's a very helpful way to deal with the very difficult question of like, when things are going well for you, let's say, and you're more in a state of joy or just coasting along, like, well, what do you do about the fact that this is still a world where all these tragedies are happening around you, or if you're in the state where you're in a state of trauma, what do you do about that? And I feel like that parable is incredibly consoling and a great guide to how to live with these two realities, and with the reality of like needing to act in this world, even as you might be longing for a different one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tricky thing about life is like there's the personal and then there's the like societal.
Yeah.
And they can be at such odds with each other. And how do you hold on to both?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you not crumble under both?
And then I think oftentimes feeling guilt of like, oh, my personal life is going well, but I see so much horror around me.
Mm-hmm. Or the flip side where you're like, I remember someone passing away close to me recently, and then me going outside and being like, look at all these people just walking around.
Oh,
they're just walking around. They don't even know. Like, it's just like this. It's just so, it feels crazy in the moment.
Oh, yeah. Like that Auden poem. Do you know that one? By W.H. Auden, Musée des Beaux-Arts. And he's basically talking about this poem, this painting that he's seeing in an art museum that's showing Icarus falling from the sky. And that at the exact moment that Icarus is landing, so having his landing in the water or whatever and having his personal tragedy, Auden is noticing that all these other people are just walking around, going about their day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is a kind of human constant, that just the weirdness of that juxtaposition.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're sort of implying is approaching it as something to be expected instead of something that needs to be fixed or that is like strange. But like, of course, we're going to feel this way. Of course, so many things are happening at once. Of course, we have the push and pull of it all.
Very Buddhist.
Exactly.
Extremely Buddhist.
Yeah. And being able to take it all in, and know that we're going to, whether we want to or not, we're going to feel both sides. And that's what life is.
And I have this memory of I went through a big breakup when I was like 23. And I remember being like in the car, like singing along to a song. And I was like, well, shouldn't I be sad? Like, it's weird that I'm happy right now. And I was like, well, I'll probably be sad later. Let me be happy in this moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But so many expectations of how we should feel that don't really help us or serve us in any way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and with grief, that's been totally documented, that people will like laugh at a joke the day after their beloved dies and, maybe weeping at their memory 30 years later. So like it never goes according to some linear plan.
That's what you have to remember when you watch Dateline and you think the husband must have done it. Because he laughed. Because there's always this thing where they're like,
I was like, where are you going?
Because they'll always be like, he's
there's
not
no
grieving
correct
properly.
reaction to grief. Right.
Right.
Exactly. Anyway, do you want to play a very silly game show?
Sure. I'll play a silly game show.
Okay, so this show is called Hypotheticals. You and Gabby are my contestants. I'm going to give you a series of hypothetical situations. You can ask any clarifying questions you might have, and then you tell me what you would do in that scenario.
Okay.
And then I just get to decide whose answer I like, if I like any answer, how I'm feeling in the moment, which really ricochets throughout the game.
It really does.
Okay, so our first game is America's favorite game show. Would you stay with this cheater? This is sort of plagiarized from Seinfeld.
A lot of these are plagiarized
a lot of
from
things
Seinfeld.
yeah, but that's fine. Everything's fine. You send your partner of 10 years out to get your favorite marble rye from the local bakery.
Oh my God. Okay.
The person in front of them orders the last one. Your partner offers to buy it off of them for a profit.
This is a very famous Seinfeld.
Yes, it is, but things are going to take a twist.
I don't know this one.
Oh, where he steals it from this old lady.
Wait. So the partner offers to buy it for a profit? Is that what you just said?
Yes,
Okay.
buy it for a profit. And instead, the person who bought the marble rye asks them for a 20-second tongue kiss in exchange for it instead of money. Your partner does this kiss to get you the marble rye. Would you stay with this cheater?
Yeah, I would.
You
I would too.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's a lot of effort that they put in, and they didn't have to pay extra money, and I get what I want.
Yeah, I totally would. I think it's all about the intention, and there is no
Mm-hmm.
problematic intention there. And like the reason intention matters partly is because it tells you like what the person might do the next time around. So it's not like I'm worried that he's going to be out tongue kissing everyone who passes by the next day. It's like it was all about the marble rye.
I hate to break it to you,
Oh
but that kiss,
Allison!
that kiss unlocks something in both of them, and they leave you the marble rye, but they take the rest of their belongings and move in with that stranger.
Is that what happened in Seinfeld? Is that what you mean?
No, but that could have been cool. No, this is in the world of hypotheticals.
Okay, so they and that stranger fall instantly in love and leave me.
Right, but you get the marble rye.
But like, then I have to go for the rest of time and get the marble rye myself.
We'll talk about bittersweet the next time you eat a marble rye.
All you can think about is your breakup.
But it tastes delicious. Okay. Our next one. Are you a terrible parent? Your child, 10, is away at sleepaway camp for the first time. You send them a letter every
I have
few
to tell
days.
you, by the way, I'm listening to this the night before both of my boys go to sleepaway camp for the first time. Isn't that a funny coincidence?
Yes.
So who knows how I'm going to answer this one?
I think I'm tapped into something.
I think you are.
Allison is psychic.
Or it might just be that my niece is going to sleepaway for a camp for the first time tomorrow.
Wow, sleepaway camp is starting.
It starts
huh?
tomorrow.
Oh my god.
All right. So you send them a letter every few days, but never get any letters in return, which is worrisome because they had agreed to send you one at least once a week. When you call the camp, they assure you that your child is fine and just doesn't like to write letters. Halfway through camp, you sneak onto the campgrounds to check to make sure they are actually okay and get caught in front of everyone, which embarrasses your kid who is actually okay and just hates writing letters. Are you a terrible parent?
No, you're a good parent.
I agree.
How do you talk? Can they not put the kid on the phone?
Thank you.
And even if they don't put the kid on the phone, FaceTime me. I want to see my kid. And I want him to be holding today's newspaper. I would think that kid is kidnapped, that they're in a cult. There's no way. There's no way. Also, as someone who went to summer camp for 10 years because my parents could not wait to offload me at the age of 8, I went there for 2 months every year. And they, like twice a week, they force you to write a letter to your parents, even if you don't want to. It was mail day, and you had to at least write a postcard that said, "Hi, Mom and Dad, I'm fine and I love you," and you had to mail it. You had to. The counselors made you. So this camp not doing that, red flag.
I'm so thrilled that I got you that riled.
One thing I do know about is getting sent away to summer camp so your parents don't have to deal with you.
Yeah, I think it's tapping into long ago memories for sure.
What do you think? Do you think it's a terrible parent to sneak onto the camp?
I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a terrible parent, but I would try to do a lot of other things before I would do that. Like I would look for other ways of trying to get in touch before driving up
I'd
there.
have a helicopter going over that camp. Absolutely not. I can't call the police, but I will call a park ranger. You're not worried if your kid went to camp tomorrow and they didn't write you the whole summer?
No, I mean, I might be worried, but I'd probably try to like call the camp and see if the camp could arrange a phone call or get the camp to have them write me a letter or something like that.
And what if the camp was like, we don't allow phone calls? That's a camp policy. We will tell you that your child is fine.
Nope.
I don't know. I've got to think about that one.
I think you sneak onto the camp.
I do too.
I think you wear some cool shorts, a big t-shirt, look like a camper, attempt to sneak on.
We do look quite young.
I don't think we look that young.
I don't know. I'm going through second puberty. I'm going to
That's
to look like a teenage boy. I could sneak right onto that camp.
That's true.
And you could be a camp counselor too.
Yes.
Like just put the whistle around your neck and the baseball cap and all that stuff.
I was an extremely bad camp counselor. Extremely bad camp counselor.
Yeah, I was a wonderful camp counselor.
Yeah. Your kids are going to have a great time.
I actually feel like they will. I'm not really worried about it. They're so excited.
Oh. Okay, our final game. Would you forgive this liar? You go out to lunch with your friend on the day of a presidential election. Both of you are wearing your I voted stickers, and you spend a lot of the time talking about the election.
No.
6 months later, you run into their recent ex, who, while talking about the breakup, tells you that your friend didn't actually vote.
This happened to me.
They just wore the sticker that came in the mail so they could seem like they voted without actually having to. Would you forgive this liar?
This happened to me. Did this happen to
Wow.
you?
No, this happened to you?
Yes.
With who?
Okay. So these two people I knew who were dating, the boyfriend in the group was posting all this stuff about voting, be important to vote, don't, whatever. And then after they split up, she told me that it was a lie and that he didn't actually vote.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Again, I'm tapping into things.
This is a real thing that happened. Susan, what would you do for this hypothetical?
I mean, I don't know. Like the question of forgiving, I don't really think about it in those terms so much because I wouldn't really see it as a personal affront to me that would require forgiveness. It would be more that I would just know that about the person. Like, oh, they're actually not honest in the way that I thought that they were. Something like that. Almost like the way that you make a mental note. Like if you have a friend who you notice is often trash talking your other friends, it's like you make a mental note of like, okay, they're probably going to be doing that with you, and that's what they do, and maybe you love other things about them, but they do this one thing. So I would probably think about it in those terms.
I would end the friendship.
Yeah, I know that about you. I could see that about you.
It would just be so like opposed to who I am and what I care about, and I would feel so misled from that lunch.
What if the ex is lying? If you were trying to get revenge on someone you broke up with and you went around and told everyone they didn't vote, that's like a believable lie that then could like be really bad for them.
I feel like the ex doing that is even worse than the first thing. Like the ex deliberately trying to sabotage someone's well-being. That's even worse.
That is so funny.
I would stop being friends.
Would you go to the person and say your ex told me you didn't vote?
Yeah.
Ah!
Oh, and I would say you have one opportunity to tell me the truth.
You can just look. Voting is public. You can just look up and see if they voted.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I would go do that, and then I would stop being their friend.
Yes, you can look up people's voting records.
Would you stop being their friend?
Yeah.
Well, we're very political people.
No, but I didn't hear the question as like, would you stop being their friend or not? It's more like, would you forgive them in some cosmic way? I guess I feel like the thing that they did wasn't against me. It was more like against themselves in some way. You know what I mean? They were just like being dishonest.
Susan's also a better person
Yeah,
than
it's
me
a
and
real
you.
like level answer, very rational. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find out about your books and everything that you're doing?
Yeah. So I guess the best place to go is my website, which is susancain.net. And you can sign up for my newsletter and my books and course. I have these cool courses that we're developing and have developed that go straight to your phone where I text you every morning with little audio messages and videos and things that you can look at and interact with. It's a really cool new technology. So that's one place to go. And then also social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram.
Cute.
And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for
so
being
much.
here.
Stick around after the break. We'll be talking all about how to like yourself.
Gross.
We all hit the snooze button sometimes, but you don't want to hit snooze on your personal goals. That's why I recommend a new podcast that's been inspiring me lately.
Snooze from LAS Studios helps real people create action plans to face their fears, achieve their dreams, and reach their goals. Whether it's finishing the creative project you've been working on for years, learning to drive a car, or planning the trip you've always wanted to take, this podcast can help you close the gap between where you are and where you want to be.
It's a show about things people put off, how they conquer them, and most importantly, how they conquer themselves. Tune in every week wherever you get your podcasts to listen to host Megan Tan and the Snooze Squad share advice and wisdom on how to stop putting off the things that matter to you.
Go ahead, follow Snooze on your favorite podcast app. Affirmation number 1. Enough is never enough. Sometimes you're just not satisfied with what you have. You want more. More is better. More is fun. Why be content with having enough when you can have more? And Best Fiends always satisfies your need for more. More puzzles, more me time, more fun. I love playing Best Fiends. I'm on level 150 right now. Literally, there is nothing better than just having something to zone out to. It's really fun to play. You can play it basically wherever because you don't need to have Wi-Fi to play it. So once you download Best Fiends, you can play even without an internet connection. That has truly been a lifesaver for me on airplanes.
Collect tons of fiends that get powered up as you play more levels. Every win brings new challenges, thousands of puzzles to play.
With thousands of levels, there's always more to play. So go ahead and let enough is never enough be your mantra.
Download Best Fiends for free from the App Store or Google Play.
Plus, earn even more with $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5.
That's friends without the R. Best Fiends.
Welcome back to Just Between Us. It's time for topics. XXXXXXX, baby.
Baby. Melissa's back.
Melissa's joining us.
Am I ever not here though?
Oh, you're always here.
Oh, Melissa's here.
But now you're on the pod.
Yeah.
Where we can hear you and see you. Because in case we hadn't mentioned, we're now releasing full episodes of the podcast on our YouTube channel.
In video.
Just Between Us show on YouTube.
YouTube.com/JustBetweenUsShow. Starting last week and now this week and all the weeks going forward, you will be able to watch the podcast in full.
Yes, you can see my reactions
You
to
can
what Gaby
see us.
says that for years now have been hidden.
Mostly because her reactions are always exceedingly positive. Yeah, we're fun. We're fun to watch. We're fun people.
It's like candy for your eyes.
Yeah. Also, we should say, by this time, we will have an up and running JVU TikTok.
Oh, yes, we're going to be on TikTok.
So on TikTok, I am at Dabby Gunn. Allison is at Allison Raskin Baby. Melissa is her name backwards.
Couldn't be harder to find.
Because I didn't want to be found at first because I joined in the early days.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
And then Just Between Us Pod wasn't taken. So we are TikTok at Just Between Us Pod. Very exciting.
We're going to be making some really groundbreaking content.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to shift this. So this topic is about liking yourself. And I want to shift this to Melissa D. Montz, who I would say likes herself the most out of everyone on this couch.
Probably in this like 50 block radius.
Yeah, so go on.
I like myself.
No, but Melissa likes herself.
It's true.
How did you come to this?
It's just always been a part of me. I'm not joking.
No,
like
I know,
I'm
but
being
it's just
so
such a cute
serious.
thing
Like
to say.
it's just always been a part of me. I think I'm great. Like really. I think I'm truly great.
What are your favorite things about yourself?
I think I'm hot. I'm smart. I'm very intelligent, pretty funny. People just like to be around me for what reason I don't know. But I'm a good time.
Yeah, you're also very driven, organized,
Oh, okay.
I
generous.
find you to be like someone I can depend on in a
Yes.
in a world where I don't feel like I can depend on a lot of
I
people.
got a lot of tips to share with people.
Oh my God, you have so many tips. You've
Yeah.
changed my life in a lot of different strange ways.
But I also like recognize things that I would like to better myself in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's parts of both of your personalities that I like very much that I want to incorporate into my life.
Like what?
So for Gaby, I like how outspoken you are and how passionate you are about things.
Thanks.
And for Allison, I like how you're like sneaky silly. But I guess that's actually I have a lot of that too, I think.
What? I'm so sorry. Can you define for me what sneaky silly is?
You just do silly stuff.
Nice. Cool.
You do. And I just don't expect it. Sneaky silly. And you're very compassionate.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I like
thank
the way
you.
you express yourself.
I was going to say Allison's very insightful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
And then you'll say something so smart, and then I'll be like, why am I here?
No, I feel that about you all the time, that you say something so smart that I would never have thought of or that could have articulated in the way you did.
Oh, well, what do you know? Maybe we should do a show together. I kind of love that I'm in the middle. I'm like kind of loving it.
I like that this episode you're sitting forward a little bit so now I can see it, Allison. I couldn't the last time. So.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying like this like energy where like I'm like the main person in the talk show or something. This is The View.
Whoopi sits on the end, and Whoopi is the main person. So
I just wanted to say that I picked this topic because I think there is a difference between loving yourself and liking yourself.
Big time. Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that like a lot of times the first step is like learning to like love yourself. Like, you know, you have value, you're a human, you should respect yourself as a person. But then like liking yourself to me is different because it's like, oh, I genuinely enjoy myself.
yeah, I really do.
Right? Like, yeah, like I find myself so funny, which I know I shouldn't.
That's not true.
You should.
Why not?
I guess, yeah.
You always, as long as I've known you, you laugh at your own jokes.
Yeah, I've always laughed
As long
at my
as
own
I've
jokes.
known you, you'll be like, and then you'll start laughing, and then you let everyone else in on it. Yeah. Or like even when you're doing hypotheticals, you'll start to read it and you'll laugh, and then you'll be like, okay, sorry, I have to read these. And
That's
I'm
a
like,
good impression.
What a good time is Allison having on her own? Yeah, I am on a journey where I think I always seem incredibly confident, and then like behind the scenes, I'll be like cripplingly insecure.
Well, that's been you always.
I know. And now I'm feeling a little bit better. Like I think the more queer I've become, the more I've been able to like be on testosterone and like move in that direction, I think has been better, especially because I thought like a lot of things I wasn't bad at being a girl. Like I was pretty good at it. Like I was like doing like hot girl shit, and I was like dressing in the way that society deems acceptable, and like so I'm like, oh, I was kind of doing a good job, but it just like was all about external validation. And I was just like, that's what I wanted. And I was like, this is what everyone is doing. And then it's like, no, actually, like like I was like doing drag. Like I would like Mal said one time I shaved before I was like transitioning. Mal said one time I shaved my legs, and then Mal said, oh, you shaved your legs. And I said, I wanted to give you the full lady experience. And Mal was like, what? You would always just be like, oh, look, I'm being a woman. And like, it's just like this discomfort with yourself where you have to like make it into something like that you're like almost pretending like, yeah, I don't like this either. Like, it's just now I feel like it's like allowed me to be more relaxed. I know that sounds crazy. And more like sure of myself, and not putting on a show, and not like doing a drag show every second of my existence. You know?
Sounds like a good change.
I know. You know what's funny? The amount of times someone will be so annoying, and then I'll be like, why are they so annoying? And then they come out as trans, and then they're no longer annoying. And I'm like, oh, we were all just like scared in our little hearts. Like we were all just like, there's like a few instances. I'm speaking specifically about Jasmine Kennedy, who's an amazing drag queen. But like, it's like this thing where and I was like talking about her, and my Drew and Mal, my partner, my friend, were like, that's what you were like. Like you were just overcompensating because you just like needed to settle in yourself. But I judge myself for that a lot. I'm still like, why are you like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think society makes it really hard to like yourself because
You're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to, because you're supposed to buy all of these things to get better so that you can one day do that. But oh, wait, you need these 10 other things first.
Right.
And so it's like, it is a really radical thing to just like who you are. And I think like what Melisa was speaking to of like, it is possible to both like yourself in your current state and also strive to change parts that you want. Like those things don't need to be like mutually exclusive.
Yes.
Right. It's always room for an upgrade.
So like, do you think that this is just like how you were raised or something?
Yeah. My parents
God.
always told me I was great.
You know, and this is the thing.
They did.
That's
Great.
amazing.
That's important.
That's amazing. I mean, this is the thing. Like, and I see this with like younger kids. Like Mal's sister is such a good mom, and the kid is like so securely attached. And then Mal and I have said to each other, like, are you kind of a little jealous of how this kid is growing up? You know, because like you just, it really is so important at a very young age for parents to say, you're smart, you're worthy, you're capable, you know, all of these kinds of things that I think as we get into the age of being a parent, not me specifically, but, you know, I would hope that our generation is a little bit more aware of how to raise kids that way. So it's really cool and lucky that you had that.
Yeah, but I mean, like we've been saying, there's always room for improvements, and I see with my sisters how they're raising their kids. It's even more so.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and also, you know, your immediate family can only do so much, right? Because also there's all this societal messaging. And so I think that, like, hopefully kids growing up now, it's not just like, you know, we're not in the era of like The Swan anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
That was like horrible TV shows where it was like, you must, or like Extreme Makeover where it's like, you best get, you know, like at least
They
like,
still get that though from every girl having Instagram face.
yeah. But I think that there's other stuff out there now too.
Yeah.
Like, I think that like there is like been some sort of shift where at least there is a significant portion of the community that like doesn't buy in
Yeah.
to some really harmful beliefs.
Yeah.
And so like I wonder like what would it have been like to have grown up never having had those beliefs in the first place.
Right.
Instead of like having had them and then having to unlearn them.
Yeah. Or even, and I don't want to take away from people getting plastic surgery or, you know, I feel like I think there would be people who say, oh, well, if you're going on testosterone and you're transitioning, you must not like yourself. And that is, again, not true. I think that because I like myself, I'm doing this. And so like sometimes people that, you know, they get facial feminization surgery, they get plastic surgery or whatever for certain reasons or any reasons. I feel like it's like you're doing this because you like yourself and you want to give yourself this gift. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about balance, right? It's like, it's interesting because I had a nose job when I was like 20 or 21. I think I might have been 20 or 20, like right the summer before senior year of college.
Lucky.
And I don't regret getting the nose jab at all. I like my face a lot. I think he did a great job. You know, I it's hard to breathe. But I have a sense that I wouldn't do that now. And it's interesting to both not regret it and also be able to recognize that that wouldn't be a choice I would make now.
Yeah.
And like, that's okay. Like, I'm allowed to change and I'm also allowed to be okay with what I did in the past and where it took me. But like moving forward, that doesn't feel aligned with who I am today, if that makes sense.
Melisa, can I ask you a potentially hot button question?
Okay.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there is even more of a societal pushback on Black women loving themselves, and that there's even more of a toxic, racist overtone of like, you know, making it even harder for someone like you and your sisters to have the level of confidence that you have. Does that affect you in any way?
I haven't personally felt it, but I have a feeling that might be part of the reason why my parents instilled so much into us, because we did, like, most of the time we were the only Black people in schools.
Right.
And so I know, like, when I was in kindergarten, for instance, we were living in Mississippi at the time, and they went to a school and literally walked in and like we were the only Black people there. And they were like, we're not going to this school. So they found like this private school for me to go to that was more diverse. And like, even like people would call me like shy when I was little, and I'm not shy, and I never thought I was shy, but I just like listened to people. And so one time I said it to my mom and she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, they keep saying I'm shy. And she's like, no, you're not. Say you like to listen, say that you're insightful, but you're not shy.
That's lovely. That's like, yeah, I just think that there's, in terms of like, I don't know, beauty standards and stuff, that's why it's always like so, there's an extra layer of radicalism to people in the media like Lizzo, like Beyonce, like, I don't know, people that are like Black women who are showing like Laverne Cox, like whatever, like anyone from like a marginalized group who's like, no, I deserve everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, yes, you do. And then the a cis white heterosexual man could post on the same vacation, and I'd be like, fuck you. No, you on this vacation, you suck. You take several vacations. Take all of the vacations. You're wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, there's even one time I was talking with Lala Milan, and I don't even remember what the conversation that we were having was, and I had said something about just kind of like the privilege in which I had grown up in, but she had asked me something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but then like I kind of shied away from what I was saying, and she was like, "No, like normalize Black luxury, like stop."
Put that on a goddamn mug. I can't sell it, but Melisa can.
I also think it's like about, there's always going to be like parts of yourself that you like less, or that like you wish weren't there, or that, you have a more complicated relationship with. I think something that's really helped me is just like focusing more on the parts I do like, right? Because like if you only have so much energy, is it like, should I try to fix this thing that like probably could get maybe 10% better? Or should I just like pour my energy and love into this part of myself that's already at 60% and I can get it to 90, like nurturing those things that like, oh, I do like this thing about me. Let me lean more into this. Let me lean more into this, instead of like building something out of nothing. If that makes sense.
Yes, definitely.
But I'm excited for you to be on a journey where I hope it's less about external validation and more just about your relationship with yourself.
It definitely is. And I look forward to becoming like 10% less annoying each 6 month that passes on testosterone. By the time it's been like 3 years, everyone's going to be like, Gabby's so chill.
I doubt it.
Wow, how could this person have ever been like the most annoying person before this? I don't even buy it. They are like so zen.
Yeah, we'll mark this.
Yeah, we'll mark this day. We'll play this back for you in 3 months and see if there's been any significant changes.
And I just said, I like the passion that you have about everything.
I told you guys that every time we start this podcast, I go, I'm not going to get riled up today. And then I just like have an out of body experience where I'm like, you're riled up again.
I would like to be more sneaky silly on the podcast.
Yeah.
I would like to nurture that part of me more.
Sneaky silly. I knew exactly what you meant.
Right?
What do you mean?
I just, that's what you're like. I don't know. I was like, I know exactly what. You're the person who like, it'll be like quiet and then like everyone will be looking in a different direction and you'll be like, psst, and you'll do something weird. And then I'll try to be like, did anyone else see that? But they're all looking ahead. And you're like, how the fuck? And you're like, and then you're like, oh, it's like, what? Like, that is you.
I do like to wink. Anyway, what do we
rate this episode? I rate it 17 out of 16 references to Nora McInerney. Hello, what's up? Are you queer yet? Let me know.
I will rate it 52 out of 37 tissue boxes that say for my last egg breakdown.
I'll rate it 20 out of 10. Drop some simps in my DMs.
Ooh!
Drop some simps in my DMs. Drop some simps in my DMs.
Come for Melisa.
Well,
no, come gently lay yourself before Melisa as an offering.
Allison will decide if you are worthy.
I just didn't want. You said come for. I didn't know what would end up in my DMs.
No. So send lovely, respectful messages of worship to Melisa.
Okay.
Disrespect me.
Disrespect me, baby. Please don't. As I will be upset.
Lead with respect. Be open to some fun disrespect in the boudoir.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Okay, I'm a hip lady.
Thank you to Susan Cain for being our guest.